Would you like better flexibility and mobility in your pelvis? Well, today's class, Belly Dance for Pelvic Health, is going to show you all the incredible ways in which our pelvis can move. So the benefits of doing these exercises are not only that you're going to learn some cool belly dance moves, but you're also going to be able to quite potentially release stress and pain in the hips and in the lower back. So having belly danced for over 20 years now, I can absolutely say as my own case study that belly dancing has absolutely helped me in a handful of different situations of sciatica and back pain, as well as hip pain from sitting. So if you have a job where you sit, I think you're going to really enjoy these exercises. Let's go ahead and give it a try. You can be an absolute beginner. It doesn't matter if you've ever belly danced before. I'm going to show you how. All right, let's just find a nice comfortable position with our feet about shoulders distance apart. I want you to have a soft bend in your knees so you feel like you can shift your weight from side to side and already start to feel some of the organic natural movement of the pelvis just by shifting that weight. So as you may notice, if you haven't done a lot of dancing or belly dancing, you're probably going to notice just this shift of the weight side to side can already be like, wow, like that really works the quads, and you may feel that in the hamstrings and the glutes. What I also want you to think about is just trying to keep your pelvis in neutral. Okay, so don't think about doing anything special with the pelvis right now. Just kind of let it organically and naturally respond to the different moves and exercises I'm going to give you. So right here, we're kind of shifting that weight. Now I want the focus to be less on the shift of the weight, like moving the feet, and more pressing or sliding the hip from side to side. Okay, so everybody's range of motion here may not be quite as big as mine. You have to remember I've been doing this a long time. You may have a very small range of motion. I want you to think of the game Jenga, where you push out the little pieces independently from the whole tower. So right now your hips are the Jenga piece that is sliding independently of the rest of the body. So you could also take it nice and big. I call this one the baby on the hip. So ladies, you probably know this one. If you've ever babysat or you're an auntie or you're a mommy, put baby on the hip and you just press out into that hip. So let's take that one nice and big so we can really explore the boundaries of our hip mobility here. Now this may feel nice. It may also feel a little uncomfortable depending on, again, if you've done this before. So just kind of take it at your comfort level, give it a try, see how it feels. Push, press. Now we're going to come back to this. This is going to be one of the base foundational techniques for some of the moves we're going to do. But next I want you to take the whole pelvis and press forward and back. So keep your knees soft, but your legs mostly straight. I don't have a big bend in the knees other than keeping my knees out of a locked position. And I'm going to hinge at those hips as I come forward. Notice my back is nice and flat, strong, and straight. So not rounding my back. So one thing that may happen here as you come back and you hinge at the hips, if you have tight hamstrings, you're going to find it really difficult to lower down, and that's okay. But that's a good diagnostic tool to let you know already, oh, my hamstrings are tight. I can work on that. And then as you come forward, what we're doing is we're keeping our pelvis in neutral, and I'm keeping my back flat, and I'm just pressing kind of the whole body pelvic complex forward, and what you may feel here is a nice stretch on those hip flexors. Again, this area of our body doesn't get a lot of TLC unless you're a belly dancer. So that's why I really love sharing these exercises with people. So we're taking it back, hinging at the hips. We're pressing forward, opening up that hip joint. So again, find kind of your range of motion here where that's comfortable and not uncomfortable or painful in any way. Because again, if you're somebody who sits a lot for work, your hips are probably very tight, as well as your hamstrings. So this is a great place to just start here with this. Now what we want to do is make a big circle around our feet, tracing a circle on the floor that goes around the outside boundaries of our feet with our hips, with those 4 moves we just covered. That's side to side and that front and back. Now do you notice how I'm keeping my hips parallel to the floor? It means I'm keeping my pelvis in neutral. If you think of your pelvis as a fishbowl and the top of that bowl, you want to keep it parallel to the floor so that you're not spilling out anything out of that bowl in any direction, right? So I'm keeping a nice parallel neutral pelvis as I come all the way around. And notice that my upper body is going to respond a little bit, and that's okay. Like especially as the hips go back, the shoulders come slightly forward. As I come over to the side, the shoulders angle to one side or the other. And as I go forward, you may feel the shoulders go slightly back. The thing is, you want to keep your pelvis in neutral. When I'm here, I don't want to arch the lower back. That could cause more pain. So actually keep the pelvis in. Do you see that? That as I go forward, my pelvis is actually tucked in, lengthening and straightening my lower back, and that is the key to helping lower back issues and sciatica. Let's go the other direction. So I've been through a lot of phases in my life. I'm in my 40s, I'm a mother, and I travel a lot, and I do spend a lot of time behind my computer as well, working. So I get really tight hips, especially from sitting on long haul flights, having gone through childbirth and just the natural aging process. And belly dance is always one thing that I can come to, tools in my toolbox to really help work out kinks and stiffness and tightness and keep myself flexible and keep my hips flexible. Okay, so now we got a nice big, we call this a hip circle. Got a nice big hip circle going on. I want you to tighten it up a little bit, make it smaller and smaller. Notice I'm still keeping my pelvis, my fishbowl neutral, and the top of that bowl parallel with the floor, so I'm not dumping or spilling in any direction, and I'm gonna tighten it up. So now I kind of got this spiraling tight movement. Those muscles are really engaging as I move around the spine as my center. Let's go the other direction. Now you're gonna see some other cool directions and ways we can move the pelvis here. Okay, so right now we're working horizontally. Everything has been that circle on the floor that we're tracing with our hips. Now I want you to bring the feet together, soft bend in the knees, and I want you to tilt, laterally tilt the pelvis. Now this one might feel a little strange too if you haven't done this before, but if you've done any type of dance, it's probable that you have probably worked with lateral tilt of the pelvis. So what's going on here is I'm using my legs, I'm using my knees, right? As one knee bends and one leg straightens, I get a natural tilt here. So legs are definitely involved, but I don't want legs to be the only thing driving the mechanics of this move. In belly dance, we actually use a lot of core. And that's not true in every dance form. I've also done salsa, and salsa is a lot, like Latin dances are coming a lot from the legs and getting a reverb on the hips. And belly dance is kind of the opposite. We try to control it mostly from the core and the pelvis. So I just want you to feel like that calibration between really working the legs, see that? Into really driving this from the muscles of the core, specifically your obliques. Of course, there's more than just the obliques. You got your deep transverse abdominals really working here. So if you're somebody who has also given birth, you are going to really want to target your corset deep core muscles, which are the transverse abdominals, and this move will do it. Okay, so that's our goal here. We want to really get deep into the core. I actually can feel those muscles as they hug around the spine, and I'm getting that movement. And it's a small movement. We could start small. We don't have to do anything big here. We're just exploring the ways the pelvic moves. And this is for everybody. This is something you could do on your break at work, right? So hopefully your coworkers won't mind. And in fact, it could be a fun party trick at lunchtime. Okay, so we're getting those hips to move. Let's just kind of move through that a little faster. You can let your body respond. You can play around with it a little bit. We're not getting too serious here. We're just letting that pelvis move. So a lot of this is organic, natural movement, which is really what I wanted to show you today, that you don't have to be a professional dancer or a trained dancer to get the benefit of these incredible movements. Now we're going to switch this to the pelvis direct. So we're going to go, we're going to lift and drop the entire pelvic through the front and the back. So we're going to lift and drop. We're going to think of tucking and releasing. Again, you can put your hands on your hip bones here and feel those hip bones open and close, close and open, right? You're going to feel that tightness as those muscles lengthen over the hip joint, and then you're going to feel them relax as you drop the hip bones down. So if you find the top of your hip bones, when the top of your hip bones direct forward, we call that anterior tilt. And when the top of the hip bones direct back, we call that posterior tilt. And I'm going to give you a little secret why that's important. I want you to think posterior, positive. This isn't 100%, but a lot of us hold ourselves in a slight anterior tilt, also known as a sway back. It's kind of a lazy posture, and we're all guilty of it. You have to imagine when you're in this anterior tilt, all your organs are kind of dumping forward. Your abdominal wall is really lax and not doing its job. As soon as I pull up into neutral towards that posterior tilt, hip bones dropping slightly back, now I'm tucking everything up and I'm using my abdominal muscles. I'm zipping them up, and what my abdominal muscles do is they keep my organs in place and they protect my spine. So as we move that pelvis up and down, the top of the hip bones angling forward and back, just want you to see which one maybe feels better to you or interesting to you. You'll probably notice if you go too far forward and anterior, you're going to feel some pinching in the lower back. And you may not have the flexibility to go really deeply into that tuck. That's okay too. You can get there just with a little practice. The idea for today is that you just want to keep that pelvis tucking and rocking, small movements, and then as you kind of get the hang of that, then you can go a little bigger. Okay, now what we want to do is we want to put those 4 elements together. So I was going side to side. That's our lateral tilt. Side, lateral means side. We got our side, our hips, and then we've got our lifting and dropping of the pelvis from the front. Now, what would happen if I put those 2 together? The front and back and the sides. I'm going to start to get a little circle where I hit all 4 points. So my knees have to be bent, pelvis in neutral again. Think of that fishbowl. This time your fishbowl is going to tilt a little bit. That's okay. You're still not dumping anything out of there, right? So tuck, 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 tuck. So we're going to tuck we're going to hike the right hip up. We're going to tuck the pelvis in. We're going to hike the left hip up, and then we're going to drop and angle the pelvis down. So just practice that, and maybe don't overthink it. Just give it a try. Little circle rotation of the pelvis. I just think this one feels so amazing. I think I probably do this one several times throughout my day. Every time I stand up from my computer, I even get my upper body involved a little bit. And I just like to move and kind of massage the spine and the lower pelvis and the sacrum. You know, our lower spine takes a big beating with all the sitting and the improper posture. You have to think of your commute in your car, you're sitting behind a desk, you're sitting in meetings. It's a lot of time sitting down, even if you are an active person. Let's go the other direction. You probably are going to have one direction that feels a little funky and awkward, not as mobile as the other side. That is 100% normal. Humans are asymmetrical creatures. Very few of us are perfectly balanced, and even myself, somebody who has practiced dance for my entire life and been active my entire life, I struggle with asymmetry in my body as well. But it's really the practice of trying to bring balance to the asymmetry that helps us with those, spots of tension and pain, is always working towards balance. Whether it's through dance, yoga is another great one, Pilates. I've actually trained in Pilates, and it's another great modality. Shake everything off, and we have another little exercise here. What I want to do is putting all that together. Do you remember the press and the push and the pull that created our big circle? Both directions. And then we had our lateral tilt and our pelvic tilt up and down to make the little circle. Now what we're going to do is going to start counterclockwise. I'm going to push my hips. I'm going to start in the right to push forward, left and back, Let's try that again. One big external hip circle, which is horizontal, to now change it into an internal rotating pelvic circle. Do you see the difference there? One bigger, tracing that circle on the ground around the feet, and then circling it in the same counterclockwise direction on the pelvis. Okay, so we go one that's pushing around, horizontal, to one that's internal, also going counterclockwise, but in the body. Look at that one more time. One big one, one small inside circle. Other direction. Clockwise, one big hip circle, one little bitty inner circle. One big, one little, one big, one little. That's a nice little way to just kind of practice this full expression of mobility and range of motion. Keep your moves small. They don't have to be big because these can, if you're not careful, you can be sort of tweaking new muscles you're not used to moving. So just stay nice and gentle. Let's go back that other direction. One big, keeping those hips parallel. And then one little where we tilt it. One is a neutral, one is tilting. One is a neutral, one is tilting, one is a neutral, tilt. Let's take it clockwise one more time. Circle, little circle, big, little circle, push, little, side, front, side, back, side, front, side, back, side, front, side, back, side, front, side, back. Push, contract up and around. Push, all going clockwise. One more time, other way. Push, circle, push, circle. Last one, push and circle. Let's go back to the basics here. Remember the press, 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 press. Just that feels good. Maybe that's your takeaway today, is just this move to stretch those side bodies, the hips, the hip flexors, the IT band, your core. You're stretching everything here, your lower back. Front, back, push and pull. Just to your comfort level, don't overdo it. And remember to keep your pelvis tucked as you go forward. Don't arch the back. You can even put a hand on the pelvis here to kind of make sure everything's staying tucked in. Then we have our lateral tilt, hip bones coming up and into the waistline using that core, and then pelvic tuck and release, tuck and release. Remember, you want to kind of maintain that slight posterior tilt, even if that's the only other takeaway you get from this video, is to try and maintain a little bit of a better posture in your pelvis, holding it in neutral for better pelvic health, which equals better spinal health. I hope you enjoyed this class, Belly Dance for Pelvic Health. You may also enjoy our Belly Dance for Spinal Health. This is the first video. The second one is Belly Dance for Spinal Health. And come join me here at Raqs Online for belly dance classes, fitness classes, world dance classes. We have Zumba, we have salsa, we have samba, we have Polynesian, we have bachata. We have just about everything over here with almost 700 classes. There's something for everybody. And thank you for joining me today. If you got something out of this video, share it with a friend or somebody else who could also benefit from getting some more pelvic health through belly dance.